This is Citizen Weekend with Olive Ballows.
A very good evening to you. Glad you could join me on Citizen Weekend tonight with my panelists. I will be discussing the reform, or is it the repatriation of 4 Turkish nationals who had sought refuge in Kenya. I'll be joined by Irungu Houghton, who is the Executive Director, Amnesty International Kenya. I'll also be joined by the International Commission of Jurists Deputy Executive Director, none other than Dimas Kiprono, and we'll also be joined by a diplomacy and security analyst, and that is Dr. Edgar Githwa. But before we get to dissecting all of that, let's take a look at the news highlights.
Number a certain experience, period of experience. Na huna, you are a young person. Need sure 3 to 5 experience, 5 years experience. Hauna.
Search for elusive jobs. Hope and despair as Kenyans scramble for Middle East jobs. 4 people questioned by police over the brutal Eastleigh murders as 3 victims are laid to rest.
Tumeridhika na katiba yetu ambayo inatupa miaka 5 kama watu ambao tumechaguliwa. Baada ya hiyo miaka turudi kwa wananchi, kama umefanya kazi uongezewe ingine, upewe promotion ama ufutwe kazi.
We will shoot it down. Politicians oppose bill proposing the extension of term limits for elected leaders, including the president.
Kuna maharagwe pamoja na apoyo. Popo zote zimeharibiwa pamoja na machunga, ndimu. Jikoni yangu ikafilisika kabisa. Farmers
suffer massive losses. Crops and houses destroyed as hailstorm pounds Chera village in Nyakach. Tonight I'm joined by Yula Nzale, our sign language interpreter. The grim face of unemployment in the country became clearer with thousands continuing to throng the Kenyatta International Convention Center for 3,000 jobs abroad. The job seekers are optimistic that they will clinch the opportunities to serve in semi-skilled and menial jobs in the Middle East. Brenda Wanga spoke to some of the job seekers who are part of the burgeoning unemployed people in a country with constricted job market.
Armed with his documents, Evans Nyakoya joins hundreds of job seekers at the KICC in Nairobi. He traveled overnight from Kisii hoping to get a stab at the jobs on offer in Qatar. But first, he has to go through the first hurdle, prove that he can travel outside Kenya. He fails.
Vile tulikuwa tunaambiwa ati utakuja tu kama una passport ama uko na barua zingine, lakini kama una passport utaweza ruhusiwa uende. Lakini mambo ni ingine, sio vile nilikuwa natarajia.
Evans is a trained driver and was hoping that a job in Qatar would pay more than the short contracts he has been intermittently engaging in here in Kenya. Rejected, he leaves to get his passport issue sorted out. Inside the grounds, hundreds wait for a chance to interview for the jobs in the hospitality and service, construction and technical areas. Stanley Mburu is a Nakuru resident who also traveled to Nairobi specifically for this chance.
Nilikuwa nimesomea kazi ya cleaners na nilipoingia kwa laini ya asubuhi wakasema hawachukui watu ambao wako na ndevu. Wakaniambia wewe enda kwanza, enda unyoe ndevu kisha urudi. Mimi nilipoenda nikatoka kidogo, nikarudi nikaona ni vizuri kwa sababu bado hata mimi ninaweza hii kazi ya mjengo, construction helpers, na ndio maana yake nikaweza kuingia kwa ile line.
He says he can't be selective of the job opportunities as long as he can put food on his family's table. The same situation can be said of hundreds of the job seekers here.
Nilimaliza shule last year. Last year hadi leo napata kazi mara moja hivyo. Lakini mimi nikipata kazi najitumanga. Jenzi ni watu kujituma.
Indeed, hundreds of thousands of Kenyans are unemployed. The Kenya National Bureau of Statistics data as of December 2023 showed that nearly 3 million Kenyans were jobless, representing 5.7% of the country's population. This number continues to grow, with the Federation of Kenya Employers, FKE, estimating that 1 million unskilled young people enter the labor market yearly. The majority of those not seeking work are those aged between 20 and 24, as well as those aged between 25 and 29. This age group's efforts to get jobs are hampered by lack of work experience and a mismatch of skills and available jobs. Marian Wamboi knows this too well.
Most of the time, when a certain experience, period of experience. Na huna, you are a young person. Need sure 3 to 5 experience, 5 years experience. Hauna. They need to give us this job so that we can have that kind of experience that they are asking for.
Na vile naona hapa tumejazana, kuna crisis in the next, kuna crisis ya Gen Z itatokea, ukosefu wa ajira. Kwa hivyo naweza omba serikali, you need to deal with this crisis of unemployment mbio mbio.
The government's efforts to address this challenge has seen it look both within and beyond her borders to look for employment opportunities for her citizens.
Kama una ujuzi, una vitambulisho ya kuoneshana kwamba umehitimu, unaweza fanya kazi, njoo ujaribu bahati yako. Unaweza pata bahati upate kazi, uende kule mbele.
By the close of this exercise here at the KICC, many of those who showed up for the interviews will be hoping that they will have made the cut and secured that elusive employment opportunity outside the country. Brenda Wanga, Citizen TV at the KICC, Nairobi.
Tonight, detectives investigating the gruesome murders of 2 women and a girl have recorded statements from 4 people. The 4 include a man in police custody who is suspected to be the main suspect's accomplice. Meanwhile, police revisited several crime scenes on a fact-finding mission as burial of the 3 victims took place at the Langata Cemetery. Franklin Awala has more.
Saturday morning, detectives revisited several places in pursuit of evidence into the mysterious Eastleigh killings. Police retrieved CCTV footage from a petrol station along Mombasa Road. The footage captured a suspect fueling a motor vehicle believed to have been used in transporting the dead bodies and which has since been recovered. Investigations revealed the suspect fueled the car here after he had dropped a body within Machakos County. As investigations into the killings intensify, police have interrogated 4 people as part of their probe into the murders. Among those interrogated is an accomplice to the main suspect. The accomplice was in communication with the suspect on the night the killings happened. The 2 were also living together in a rented house within Eastleigh. Another person who has recorded a statement with the police is the landlord. He is said to have rented a house to the suspect without official documents. Police also arrested 2 people from Nairobi CBD who sold the suspect a mobile phone worth 23,000. At the shop, the suspect left a mobile number of a woman. Police have also retrieved CCTV footage from a building within Eastleigh. A CCTV captured Waris Said Daudi with the suspect on the fateful night. From Eastleigh, detectives took their probe to Bahati within Buruburu where more evidence was gathered. It is at this crime scene where the body of 12-year-old Nusaiba Abdi was recovered. Locals say police officers also recovered used condoms and undergarments at the scene. As this happened in Nairobi, someone with a striking resemblance to the main suspect was arrested within Dobli, Somalia. After intense interrogation and fact-finding, the man was released. Meanwhile, prayers were held at Al-Nur Mosque within South Sea for the 3 victims of the brutal killings. They were buried at the Langata Cemetery after the prayers. Bashir Sharif, husband to Waris Daudi Said, and the father of Nusaiba Abdi was present during the burial. Franklin Wala, Citizen TV.
Impeached Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua was yet again on the firing line as National Assembly Speaker Moses Wetangula and the National Assembly Majority Leader Kimani Ichung'wah led an onslaught against him, accusing him of spreading division in the country through regional and tribal politics. Speaking during the burial of Tharaka Member of Parliament George Murugara's mother in Tharaka Nithi County, the leaders hinted at the swearing-in of Deputy President nominee Professor Kithure Kindiki next week. Our political affairs reporter Emmanuel Tu has those details.
Impeached Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua is yet again on the receiving end as leaders in the top brass of the Kenya Kwanza administration Saturday picked from where they left before his impeachment motion was tabled in Parliament. Speaking during the burial of Tharaka legislator George Murugara's mother Lena Murugara in Tharaka Nithi County, the leaders accused Gachagua of spreading tribal politics.
Unajua Kenya na milima miwili, Mount Kenya na Mount Elgon. Na sisi ambao tunatoka Mount Elgon hatujawahi kuthubutu kusema sisi watu wa mlima. Najua kuna wengine walituambia ati sijui tukiguza nini mlima italipuka. Mumeona ikilipuka? And I want to assure you, Mr. Speaker, sir, the mountain, as I said in Parliament, the mountain is intact because the mountain belongs to all the people of Kenya.
The leader saying Gachagua had orchestrated his own downfall by being disloyal to his boss, President William Ruto.
There is only one currency in politics, and that currency is called loyalty. There's no other currency. Loyalty to your cause, loyalty to the people who elected you, loyalty to your boss, and loyalty to what you stand for. Tusiwe na viongozi wa kuwagawanya wa Kenya kwa misingi ya ukabila. Tusiwe na viongozi ambao wataturudisha nyuma sisi tukiangalia mbele.
Some of the members bordering on recklessness, hinting at the possible swearing-in of Professor Kithure Kindiki next week as the Deputy President, despite being aware that the matter is in court and yet to be argued by the parties to the dispute.
Next week, tafadhali wekeni sherehe tayari. Wekeni sherehe tayari next week kuanzia Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, wekeni sherehe tayari. Hili liko na habari ya kutosha. Kwa sheria, Bwana Spika, tunasema status quo remains. Status quo ile iko ni kwamba the President of Kenya appointed Professor Kithure Kindiki as the Deputy President. That is the status quo. In a democracy, numbers have meaning. 282 members of Parliament against 44 say Kenya must change.
Hundreds of kilometers away in Homa Bay County, there were calls for a quicker judicial process by another group of political leaders.
So let the court move as fast as possible. He has been granted enough time to be before the courts of law.
Kenya is one, and everybody has the freedom of residing, working, eating, and sleeping anywhere they want.
Emmanuel To, Citizen TV.
The Senate Justice and Legal Affairs Committee is expected to table a report on public participation on the proposed extension of term limits for the president and other elected leaders through a bill tabled by Nandi Senator Samson Cherargei. The controversial bill has triggered widespread reactions, with many political leaders expressing opposition to it, at least in public. Melita Olatenges has more.
Opposition to the proposed bill by Nandi Senator Samson Cherargei to extend term limits has become a constant in almost all views expressed publicly. The latest front is that of leaders from Western Kenya.
Rais aende miaka 7, MCA waende miaka 7, hiyo itapatilisha nini? Setabu ni ile ile. Kwa hivyo we must uphold the Constitution of Kenya.
Sisi kama viongozi, we must respect the Constitution of Kenya ambayo inapatiana uongozi kwa miaka 5, na ukifanya kazi nzuri unachaguliwa pia miaka mingine 5.
Sasa watu wanakaa kwa kiti kama Museveni. Article 1 of the Constitution inasema sisi we hold the office on behalf of the people. Ni nyinyi wenye hii ofisi mmetupatia miaka 5 Wacha ibakie miaka 5.
Kenyans who attended a public participation exercise led by the Senate Justice and Legal Affairs Committee at the Kenyatta International Convention Center on Friday were almost unanimous in their opposition to the bill's controversial proposals.
This bill is cynical.
And with the JLAC committee chaired by Bomet Senator Hilary Sigei expected to table a report on the public participation before the bill proceeds for the second reading, the ODM party has pronounced its stand.
Mimi kama katibu wa chama najua kwamba tumeridhika na katiba yetu ambayo inatupa miaka 5 kama watu ambao tumechaguliwa. Baada ya hiyo miaka turudi kwa wananchi, kama umefanya kazi uongezewe ingine, upewe promotion ama ufutwe kazi.
We are not ready for drama. We are saying 5 years is enough for leaders to perform.
Leaders within the UDA party, including Secretary General Hassan Omar, have also expressed their disapproval of the bill. Melita Oletengez, Citizen TV, Nairobi.
The newly rolled out Social Health Authority continues to run into a myriad of challenges, with the latest one being technical hitches that have made it difficult for some hospitals to access, retrieve and process patient information. Hospital administrators at the Kisii Teaching and Referral Hospital have been unable to process the discharge of patients at the facility due to challenges with the system, causing a severe backlog in the hospital. With more detail is Mary Mwoki.
Long queues characterize the discharge bay at the Kisii Teaching and Referral Hospital in Kisii County. Weak and tired, the patients wait around hopelessly, unable to successfully process their discharge due to a malfunction in the SHA system, a malfunction that has made it impossible to process their release from the facility and resulted in a backlog of patients awaiting discharge.
Hii asha nilikuwa nimeletesta, but haikuniletea feedback. So nimeng'ang'ana, nikaletewa pili yangu ilikuwa inasoma 4K. But nimetipo 1950, tumenikosa 2000.
Anza kuprocess yangu ikafika katikati kwa sub county, haikuendelea kwenda hapo mbele. Ndio maana sijalipa hadi saa hii, hata niko hospitali wananiambia nilipe cash.
Whereas some opt to wait at the discharge bay, others lie outside in the grass. Those not strong enough remain tucked in bed, not sure how much longer they have to wait as the bills accrue. Even new mothers are not spared the agony.
Kuja kuzaa, after kuprocess hiyo process ya SHA, kufika katikati, ikakata. Kasa hii nimelala siku 3. Na wanaomba 8K. Hata linda mama yenye ilikuanga inasaidia ishatolewa huko.
Tunalalanga hata watatu, unaambiwa tu mtu yenye tutaka alale ni mtoto, wewe unaweza simama. Hiyo ndio challenges tunapitia hapa ndani, baridi, ile tu saa pesa imekosa, tunaendelea tu kuishi.
The hospital administrators say system outages with SHA have caused a backlog, with over 200 patients unable to process their discharges, and they continue to be held in the wards, taking up space for other needy cases. The hospital says they were initially given the wrong credentials for the facility, and changing that has proven to be an uphill task.
Saa zingine ile system inayotumika kwenye SHA inakuwa inapoteza network kidogo, wakati mwingine inarudi, so unakuta kuna kule kuchelewa katika kuprocess.
The credentials delayed to come to us, necessitating that most of the patients who were to benefit out of the SHA shift had to be delayed. So it's our sincere request to SHA that they work with speed and solve whatever outstanding issues are remaining.
Stakeholders have criticized the government for insisting on the transition without first ensuring that the system was fully in place, much to the disadvantage of helpless patients. Speaking in Mombasa, doctors want the government to suspend the system until all the hitches are resolved.
As we speak, like all doctors in this fraternity and in the whole Kenya, all of them, they are rejecting SHIF. As we speak right now, they are saying SHIF is unfunctional or SHA is infunctional. Right now, each and every one of its citizens, they are removing their own out of pockets.
Mary Mwoki, Citizen TV.
Residents of Chera village in Nyakach are counting losses running into millions of shillings following a hailstorm that hit the area on Friday. Hundreds of acres of crop were laid to waste, with several heads of cattle also dying after they were hit by massive hailstones. As you'll hear now from Laura Otieno, the residents are appealing for assistance from the Kisumu County Disaster Response Committee in order to restore their livelihoods.
At the home of 74-year-old Rispa Ajina, the gaping holes dotting her roof tell of the Friday afternoon horror that visited Chera village in the form of a hailstorm. What was a budding farm less than 2 days ago now carries shredded crops, livelihoods flattened by the afternoon rain that destroyed everything in its wake.
Ilikuwa na maharagwe pamoja na apo inaitwaje, na popo zote zimeharibiwa pamoja na machunga, ndimu. Jikoni yangu ikafilisika kabisa. Nyumba kubwa nayo imetobolewa, unafikiri imekatwa na panga.
This amateur clip shows real time the damage caused by the hailstones, which lasted about 40 minutes. This cow bearing scars inflicted by the raging stones, which were the size of golf balls. In documents shared by the Kenya Meteorological Department, the strong winds and slight rainfall over the last 2 weeks could have caused the formation of hailstones that unleashed destruction on Chera village.
So ikanyesha about kama dakika 45. So wakati nilipokuja kuchukua ng'ombe, kuangalia ng'ombe kwanza, hii nyingine, hii nyeupe, hii haikuwa inatembea. Hii ilikuwa nasukuma tu. Hapo kwa mgongo yote ilikuwa damu. So ilibidi nikatafuta daktari jana jioni. Nilikuja akazidunga sindano. Sasa unaona saa hii nimelose pesa, siwezi pata pesa hata kulipa school fees ya mtoto. Zote zimeenda chini na hizo juu imeharibika.
Hata kule nimezaliwa huwa kuna mvua ya aina hii ya hailstones. Lakini hii hazijawahi kuwa kubwa hivyo. Ni jambo ya kushangaza.
With livelihoods worth millions laying wasted here, affected residents are calling for the dispatch of the Kisumu County Disaster Response Team to not only take stock of their loss, but consider some form of compensation. Laura Otieno, Citizen TV.
What you have?
Slain Mombasa-based online taxi driver Victoria Mumbua has been buried at the Mbaraki Cemetery. Friends, family and colleagues who gathered to bid her farewell spoke of the profound loss, eulogizing Mumbua as a devoted mother of two. As you'll hear now from Francis Ntalaki, the family has called on detectives to expedite the investigations.
The grief and sorrow here was almost palpable. Family, friends and relatives gathered to bid farewell to slain online taxi driver Victoria Mumbua. At the funeral service held at Little Theatre Club, the family spoke of their profound loss, remembering Mumbua as a devoted mother who poured her heart into caring for her two children and other loved ones and always putting family first.
Victoria Mumbua Muloki, affectionately known as Tuto, had a joyful spirit from her early age, an infectious smile that brightened the lives of everyone around her.
The late Mumbua was abducted by a client who had requested for a ride to Samburu in Kwale County. He allegedly killed her before dumping her body in Maimahu, Nakuru County. The family is appealing to security officers to expedite investigations to bring to book all those who were involved in her gruesome murder.
Her deep love and care for her children, triumph, Princess and Prince, as well as Elizabeth, Faith and Cherubim, was evident in everything she did. She worked tirelessly to provide and raise them with strong faith and value, nurturing them in a godly way.
The body of the late Victoria was interred at Mbaraki Cemetery in Mombasa County. Francis Ntalaki, Citizen TV.
I now have an update for you from the Ministry of Labour on the report that Brenda Wanga compiled for us, and that is on the 3,000 job opportunities which the ministry says are available in the Middle East. And the Cabinet Secretary for Labour states that due to the large turnout by Kenyans for interviews, many positions have been filled. Thank you for your patience in turning up to try your luck. Interviews for majority of positions will now be conducted only at the Kabete National Polytechnic, I beg your pardon, on Sunday, October the 27th from 8 a.m. Only nurses will be interviewed at the Kenyatta International Convention Center. All hospitality positions have been filled. If you qualify only for certain positions, please come to the Kabete National Polytechnic. Those positions include light vehicle drivers, operators of excavators, mobile crane, skid loader, backhoe loader, single drum loader, telehandler, boom truck, water tanker, tipper truck, tower crane, rigger, signalmen, construction helpers, cleaners, male only. Female positions already filled: electricians, plumbers, masons, tile layers, steel fixers, painters, welders, scaffolders, and duct man. And he concludes his statement by saying all the best. Coming up on the other side of this break on Citizen Weekend. Is Kenya still a safe haven for refugees? Did government violate the UN Convention? Experts discuss the Kenya-Turkey affair.
As a parent, you want your little one to experience all that life offers. To touch the world with an open heart and curious mind. But the world, for all its beauty, holds unseen dangers. Germs, bacteria, tiny threats, waiting on every surface.
Dettrex protects you and your family from disease-causing germs.
That's why I choose Dettrex.
Allowing the freedom to be yourself all day long.
Dettrex, endorsed by Kenya Progressive Mass Association. Bidhaa bora kutoka Pwani Oil Limited.
These days, you have to shop smart as everything is so expensive. I shop smart. I always get a good bargain when I buy my mbogas from Mama Chege. I shop smart. I buy the 1 kg of Msafi, which costs the same as 500 grams of a popular detergent. I shop smart. Msafi removes tough stains and keeps clothes bright. And its pleasant fragrance keeps clothes smelling fresh. Chagua smart, value maradufu, na Msafi.
Hello, my name is Mary Oyeke. I'm from the county of Homa Bay. Towards the end of 2019, I could feel a growth on my left breast. When the person gets checked and anything is found early, it is easier, it is cheaper for the company, it is cheaper for everybody, it is cheaper for the economy when you're dealing with somebody who is at stage 1 than it is at stage 4. To everyone who's also starting this journey, I wish you well. God be with you. It is not as daunting when you know that there are people who are going through this with you. We are there, we are available, and we will walk with you through this journey. We'll hold your hand through this journey.
This message is brought to you by Royal Media Services. We care.
Great yummy taste, gotta hack it. I spread bread, pate nguvu, gotta pack it. Napaka nyweki design ya mogoro. Blue Band, Juni natural cocoa. 5 vitamins, una grow plus ni tam nani. Tuna hack snack na ki Blue Band choco for your growth.
Is Dove better than ordinary soap? We're going to prove it. Take a bar of your soap and Dove. Use yours on one side, Dove on the other. The soap part feels rough. The Dove side is softer, smoother, and more radiant. With 1/4 moisturizing cream, Dove deeply nourishes for radiant skin all over. Try Dove and feel the difference.
Ushapanga Christmas holiday yako? Acha View Travel kusort na festive deals.
Twende Costo for 4 days starting from 53,400 Kenya shillings. Ama vuka boda and enjoy 5 days in Zanzibar from 806 USD. Cape Town from 1,617 USD, or Dubai from 770 USD, all on per person sharing. Usiwachwe nyuma. Book your favorite destination this festive holiday now na uanze kulipa pole pole. Visit viewtravel.com or call and WhatsApp 0703 254 254. View Travel. Dream, explore, discover.
New Downy perfume collection. Sometimes I need a scent to keep me calm amongst the chaos, or a light fragrance that keeps me fresh in the heat, or a perfume that feels elegant all day and into the night, lasting longer than expensive perfumes. New Downy Lavender Calm, sunrise fresh and sweet elegance, freshness that inspires confidence. Your dreams have come true. Try it for only 20 shillings.
Kule kushtuka nilikuwa nimeshtuka kulisha, then nikakuwa na furaha moyoni, nikajua kweli hii kitu kila mtu anaweza win.
That's not waste time sana. That is your check. Shikilia check yako. Hii pia ni yako.
Okay. Mimi ningependa kumuomba muendelee kucheza, kwani Mungu anaweza kukufungulia mlango wakati wowote.
*487 *3 hash is the magic code, my wonderful people. Tuzidi kujipanga, tushinde na view sasa.
New Downy perfume collection. Sometimes I need a scent to keep me calm amongst the chaos, or a light fragrance that keeps me fresh in the heat, or a perfume that feels elegant all day and into the night, lasting longer than expensive perfumes. New Downy Lavender Calm, sunrise fresh and sweet elegance, freshness that inspires confidence. Your dreams have come true. Try it for only 20 shillings.
Welcome to AirAsia Fly-Through, your journey to seamless travels. One booking, 2 connecting flights. Simple, right? Skip baggage claim and forget about rechecking in. Transit with ease, no stress, no hassle. Your baggage, it's heading to your final stop too. Enjoy effortless travel, just the way you like it.
Wash your clothes with Toss Lavender to leave your clothes with a lasting, irresistible freshness.
Celebrate the love of Jesus Christ this Sunday morning.
Every tongue confess that Jesus Christ is the Lord, and through the name of Jesus Christ, everyone who shall call upon his name shall be saved.
Experience an amazing church service from Christian Foundation Fellowship Kiambu, led by Bishop Michael Wanderi.
Yesu Kristo alituonyesha njia, akasema ya kwamba kuna hali ambayo ni gumu sana katika maisha, haiwezi ikaondoka bila ya kufunga kula chakula na kuomba. Hakuna jambo ambalo halina suluhisho katika dunia hii.
On Citizen TV from 9 a.m.
But I know that meat looks tender, but maybe not so much when your chest is burning. Remember what happened the last time? Hey, dude, you don't listen, man. Are you testing yourself? I tried looking out for you, bro. Hey, you see now? How's the heartburn? Look now, it's burning.
Do not hold back in any situation. Eno gets to work on the 6 symptoms of heartburn fast.
You do know you said all of that out loud, right?
If symptoms persist, seek medical advice.
Citizen Duka, the home of discount.
This week kwa Citizen Duka
tumewaletea the lovely lady package from Quickmart. Sour bathing soap 35 bob, Always sanitary towel 189 bob, Rexona deodorant 199 bob, Dove lotion 499 bob. Ukinunua hizi products ukitumia Citizen Duka utalipa only 962 bob, meaning utakuwa umesave 578 bob. Unangoja nini? Piga *487*5# na ulipe saizi ka vitu bado ziko kwa stock.
Citizen Duka, the home of discount.
I'm so tired of people treating me like trash.
Nini nukuanga mbaya na wewe? Nini kusumbua hapa kwa kichwa yako?
What's wrong? Someone bothering you in school?
No. I don't want to be a loser.
Dajukiz, mama yako alikufundisha kupika. Na mimi nikakufundisha kuendesha gari. Gari hili ni lako.
Soko, more than a meal.
Thank you for staying with us on Citizen Weekend. Residents of Suneka on Friday were treated to a rare event after a man who left his family 34 years ago without a trace returned for a surprising reunion. Joseph Nyanga left his family at Bonyando village more than 3 decades ago, saying that he forgot to trace his way back. The 70-year-old has been in Baringo with his family searching for him until they finally found him. Citizen TV's Crispin Otieno filed the following report.
Scenes in Suneka during the unexpected return of Joseph Nyanga on Friday morning, a man who went missing 34 years ago. His family having searched in morgues, hospitals and police stations with no success. Family, friends and relatives thronged major roads in Suneka to welcome him back to his Mojando village where he left his family for more than 3 decades. Worship, songs and dances signaled the return of a prodigal son. The now 70-year-old is literally shocked to be back home. We wanted to know the reason behind his unceremonious departure from home.
Kutoka kwangu nyumbani ni kazi tulikuwa tunafanya ya maparapara, kujenga mataraja. Ndio nitoa nyumbani. Nikaenda mpaka nikakuta nimesahau.
In Kabartonjo, Nyanga started another family with another woman where he fathered a total of 7 children in addition to the 3 he left in Kisii. Family and friends who went after him in Baringo narrated the trap they laid to lure Mzee Nyanga home.
Alijua kipeana ripoti kwamba tunaenda kumtafuta huyu mzee, ile familia ingemtorosa tusimpate. Akamwambia ni chakula anapelekewa na serikali. Akawekwa kangale akiongoza chakula. Tukajificha ndani ya gari, wakaenda wakamuita pale alikuwa. Alipokuja tulitoka ndani ya gari, akafikiri ni chakula, akapata ni watu wake wanatoka kwa gari.
While acknowledging the mistake he did, Nyanga was quick to apologize to his family.
Napenda kuambia enyewe ni kama kuomba msamaha. Nimekaa nje kwa siku nyingi, miaka mingi. Sasa wanisamee nikae nyumbani. Sasa nilienda tu hivyo, sasa nikashindwa. Hata ningekuja nyumbani singejua nyumbani wapi.
His seemingly shocked wife shared her experience of life without a husband and a father figure for her children.
Ni watoto tu nilikuwa nashughulika nao.
Nyakati nyingi alikuwa anashughulika na hao watoto. Mungu alikuwa
anapeleka shule na kila kitu.
Alikuwa na pipi anaitwa alikuwa anaitwa Sunday. Huyo pipi ni Mturkana. Lakini sasa vile walitoka hapa, huyo Mturkana alisema tumeenda na baba yako lakini hakuna siku utamuona tena.
After day-long explanation about where he was, the residents in the end enjoyed a hearty meal in honor of a prodigal son who had returned. All this under the watchful eye of villagers. It has been more than 3 decades since Mzee Nyanga left this village way back in 1990, and his warm reception back home has made Mzee Nyanga to apologize for abdicating his father figure role, promising to start afresh as a family man. Crispin Otieno for Citizen TV, Bonchari, Kisii County.
The William Ruto administration's commitment to respect for human rights once again came into question this week, following the forcible return of 4 asylum seekers fleeing political persecution in Turkey. Human rights groups point to a worrying trend of the Kenyan government kowtowing to strongmen and in the process eroding confidence in the country's willingness to keep refugees safe. What's in a name? Refoulement, reparation, deportation. Words whose meanings have come into sharp focus following the abduction of a British national and 7 Turkish nationals in a coordinated exercise a week ago.
A white jeep blocked our way, and in that car there were 4 armed people, and they pointed their weapons to us. They forced us to go with them. I realized that all of them was wearing a mask. They covered our eyes, and we were handcuffed.
It saw 4 of the 7 Turkish nationals who should have been protected by their refugee status returned to their country of origin from which they had sought asylum in Kenya. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs describing their return as repatriation and not refoulement. A serious breach not only of Kenya's Refugee Act, but the 1951 UN Convention relating to the status of refugees, the 1967 Protocol relating to the status of refugees, and 1969 OAU Convention governing the specific aspects of refugee problems in Africa. Kenya's Refugee Act of 2021 in Section 29 stipulates that no person shall be refused entry into, expelled, extradited from Kenya or returned to any other country or be subjected to any similar measure if, as a result of such refusal, expulsion, return or other measure, such person is compelled to return to or remain in a country where the person may be subject to persecution on account of race, religion, nationality, membership of a particular social group or political opinion, or the person's life, physical integrity or liberty would be threatened on account of external aggression, occupation, foreign domination, or events seriously disturbing public order in part or whole of that country. The Refugee Act does, however, include the following exception. The benefit may not, however, be claimed by a refugee or asylum seeker whom there are reasonable grounds for him or her being regarded as a danger to the national security of Kenya. Actions which have elicited concern not only from the UN High Commissioner for Refugees, but from religious leaders.
Ni mtindo ambao unaleta hofu nyingi na unaweza kuharibu sifa ya Kenya.
Civil society groups, legal practitioners, and even Kenya's partners.
Recently, there was the arrest of 36 Ugandans. Is Kenya safe for refugees anymore, or if your government agrees with our government, you cannot enjoy the protection that refugees enjoy under international law?
Human rights groups view the return of the Turkish refugees as further proof that Kenya has no business serving on the UN Human Rights Council starting January. The return of the 4 Turks coincides with the death of Fethullah Gulen, a Turkish spiritual leader and Islamic scholar who founded the Hizmet movement and who was buried on Thursday in the United States, where he was in self-exile. Following an attempted coup in 2016, which Gulen denied any involvement in, his movement was designated a terrorist group, and Tayyip Erdogan, the president of Turkey, oversaw a crackdown on schools, media outlets and businesses associated with his former ally. On his death, Erdogan described Gulen as, quote, a demon in human form. All right, as promised, I have in studio Dr. Edgar Githua, diplomacy and security expert. We also have with us in studio, who you saw in that report, Dimas Kiprono, Deputy Executive Director, the International Commission of Jurists, Kenya. And we also have joining us virtually, Irungu Houghton, who is the Executive Director, Amnesty International. Both Amnesty and ICJ released statements following this abduction of initially 7, 4 ended up being refoulement or repatriated according to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Why did it trigger you to release a statement?
What triggered us is that the principle of non-refoulement is a basic tenet of international human rights law and international refugee law. This is the principle that protects the human dignity of any person who felt that they had to flee their country for whatever reason. And so when such person is then returned by a host country to that country that he or she fled from, it is a breach of international law, and we cannot secure their safety, their legal rights. And so we find that it is quite problematic. And it speaks to a pattern that may be worrying to many people. When a person flees their country and comes into Kenya, international law dictates that now Kenya has a legal obligation to protect them. We have a UNHCR office here that works together with the Kenyan government to ensure that any refugee or asylum seeker is processed. These individuals had been processed. Another tenet of non-refoulement and even extradition or repatriation is that repatriation cannot be done for political purposes. And from what we are seeing is that these people were taken back for political purposes. They were wanted by the Turkish government for political purposes. The
terminology used by the PS for Foreign Affairs, Korir Singoe, was they were engaged in, or said to have been engaged in subversive activities in Turkey. And he gave the explanation that Turkey is a big player in Somalia, Ethiopia, in the region. And so this was a decision taken for, quote unquote, the bigger good, the greater good. What did you make of that explanation, Dr. Edgar Githua?
Thank you. I'll answer your question in 2 parts. Number one, I'll say nation-states act always in their own interest. We have a theory called realism that says states pursue their own interest, meaning at any given time, nation-states do a cost-benefit analysis and try and ask themselves, if we take this course of action, do we gain or do we lose? So the statement and that caption that we did it for the greater good shows that Kenya realized they would get backlash for this, but still went ahead because they felt they would not want to anger Turkey or lose the deep relations they've had with Turkey. Turkey is a huge defense contractor, so probably Kenya buys weapons from Turkey. Turkey is a big player in the East Africa, in the Horn of Africa, Somalia, that region, East Coast. So I think Kenya felt compelled, that is the word I want to use, that we do not want to make Turkey an enemy for obvious reasons. So this acting in national interest is what propelled or informed Kenya's decision first. I'm sure they sat down and realized they were, of course, just like what Mr. Kiprono has talked about, they were going against international law. But looking at the bigger picture, they said we would rather deal with the consequences of that backlash as opposed to making Turkey an enemy. So the greater good is Kenya pursuing its national interest in feeling like we want to maintain Turkey as a friend, as a trade partner, as a business partner, as a defense contractor and all that with the military-industrial complex. So I think that's how Kenya made that decision.
All right. Yeah. And we also have Irungu Houghton, as I mentioned earlier, joining us virtually. There have been statements that this points to a worrying trend. Do you agree with that statement, Irungu?
Yes, I mean, as Amnesty International, we are extremely concerned by what has happened over the last week or so. Let me just go back to that Friday. And, for about 72 hours, we were not sure what was happening. We knew that refugees that had been given UN protection had been abducted, if I can just use the word, kidnapped off the streets of Nairobi. Many of them were parents. There was a 16-year-old boy that was involved. There was a wife, and nobody was taking responsibility. If you remember, the Inspector General, the police spokesperson, said that they would investigate this case. So, we were really not sure whether this was another case of transnational repression. Transnational repression essentially is where a foreign government comes onto another government's soil and essentially abducts, kills, or otherwise renditions people that have sought the protection of another government under international refugee law. So for 72 hours, we were not sure what was happening. And I think, what has really struck me as a major concern is what the implications this is now that we have the Ministry of Foreign Affairs admission that this was a government-sanctioned collaborative effort to essentially have 7 refugees taken back to Turkey against their wishes. Really, the concern has to be around what does this mean for Kenya's role as a sanctuary state, as a sanctuary nation for 780,000 registered refugees. And of course, the number is much more than that. For the last 30 years, Kenya has very steadily built up a reputation that even America and Europe have not been able to build up, which is the idea that we are a place of safety, a place of refuge for those being persecuted and searched by their countries. And I think it's not just a bilateral conversation between, or rather a bilateral issue between Turkey and Kenya. It throws into question Kenya's relationship with the international community and with its citizens, that we are a country that protects people in need, people in flight. And it comes at a very strange time. It comes at a time when the government has actually been making a lot of successful achievements in terms of developing protection for refugees in line with international human rights law. Like we have in 2021, we have a new Refugee Act. There is a new Sharika plan that is looking at trying to integrate refugees into the different counties across the country, starting with Dadaab and Kakuma, the camps that have been home to about 500,000 plus refugees. That Sharika plan needs 115 billion shillings to implement the first phase of its 4-year plan. And I'm not really sure whether the actions that have been taken in the context of the Turkish refugees has now thrown that all into question.
All right. Dimas, I know Irungu was at a civil society engagement with the Ministry of Interior and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, where the PS sought to provide an explanation, when he talked about the greater good. But in a statement he posted to his social media handle, he said, Kenya, let me find this, that they have gotten a commitment from Turkey that these persons will be handled with dignity. Good enough, in your view?
So how do you measure this commitment, especially since it is likely that they were taken because of political reasons, right? And even if you look at definitions of words such as terrorism or sedition or subversion, these are not very tangible, definable words. And so it leaves a really big window for abuse. And I think also what Kenya has done essentially is an invitation to treat to other nations. If you're powerful enough, we can talk. If your citizens are here, we can talk, which is a very dangerous precedent.
All right. So, this happened with 36 Ugandans, as was raised by the Kisumu governor, Anyang' Nyong'o, in his own backyard. And now with these Turkish nationals, will there be implications for Kenya, Dr. Edgar Githwa?
Yes, thank you. Very exactly. I agree with what Irungu and what Dismas was talking about. Kenya has soiled its international image in the sense that, number one, we appear like we are a nation, number one, that does not follow its obligations under international human rights law and international humanitarian law, refugee law. We've broken all this. Two, what is the safety of all the other refugees who have been in Kenya for a while? So we throw that into question. it is Kenya. We are in Haiti right now. So the bigger questions, the diplomatic quagmire we enter is, can other countries start asking, can we trust Kenyans to go to Haiti and bring about peace and respect the laws and rights of that land and human rights law there? We begin to appear like we will not follow through on our commitments. So regardless of, and I understand that sometimes statecraft calls for some very tough, bad decisions, and all countries in the world at some point are caught up in some of these dilemmas. But on the face of it, in my view, why not call the UNHCR and tell them, these 7 individuals, we do not want them in our country in the next 72 hours. For whatever reason, hand back the problem to UNHCR and tell them we do not want them on our soil. And then you tell Turkey, look, we've handed them over to UNHCR, they are no longer our problem. That way you shield yourself from the backlash that is coming, from this negative diplomatic spat that is coming, because this will be quoted for ages to come. We can't undo what we have done. And like what Mr. Kiprono was said, you cannot guarantee their security and their safety on the other side. And if they were being sought for subversive acts, they are definitely not going to be treated well. We know Turkey. Turkey is known. One of the reasons why Turkey has not been admitted into the European Union is because the European Union questions Turkey's human rights records on its own soil. So handing them back to Turkey, we can't guarantee, and there is nobody out there who can really say that they're going to be treated with dignity. So Kenya should not have put itself in that position.
But sorry, it's, there are those who take the view that, it's well and good, all these lofty human rights ambitions, and I'll Irungu out on this question I'm asking you. But the explanation provided by the PS was this was a practical matter and we took a practical decision for our country. Are you satisfied with that response?
No, we won't. And I said as much to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs on Tuesday morning when I had the opportunity to discuss this with the PS. And it was an honest dialogue. I mean, I think from our side, we made it very clear that Kenya must operate within its international obligations. They're both humanitarian and human rights, and doing deals on the side of which we really have no understanding of what this may be. So is it that these are suspected terrorists, and in which case, what was the due process that was followed in the Kenyan context to ensure that they had an opportunity to essentially respond to these allegations before they were deported? And it's very clear that none of this happened. We saw letters from their lawyers saying essentially that they had been given no opportunity to represent their clients or to meet their clients. But from what we heard from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, that within 17 hours, literally 17 hours, those people, those 4 refugees, had lost UN protection and were now on a flight back to Ankara. And I think we have to ask ourselves, is this government going to work within the rule of law, or is it essentially going to do deals on the side of the law that violate international conventions and human rights principles? And I just hope that the answer to this is that we will not repeat this in future. But I think, refoulement most foul is what keeps running through my head at this point, that we have essentially, as a government, the government has failed the Constitution, it has failed the international conventions, and there has to be an...
All right. So Irungu talked about due process. What, Dimas, in this situation would have been due process?
Due process is set out within our laws and also within the procedures of UNHCR. So within our laws, Turkey would have put in a request, a formal request to the government. Usually goes to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and then it's transmitted to the Attorney General. And that request usually has to outline the allegations, the evidence, the charges. And then whatever comes out there is then taken through a judicial process, right? And a hearing is had whereby those refugees are given a chance to defend themselves and say why they should not be taken. And they even have they have a right of appeal if a decision is not to their satisfaction. And this ensures that, first of all, that the reasons are legitimate, the evidence meets the threshold, and that whatever they are being charged with back home is also a crime in Kenya. So it has to be a crime in both countries, right? And so in this case, we did not have that opportunity for due process to continue. Another thing, when these matters are taken before a court or before the UNHCR, they look at what are the probabilities of that person being persecuted, being tortured in the country that they are being repatriated to or refoulement to, you know, and so these are the fundamental things that were not there. In fact, non-refoulement is even in the Convention Against Torture. It is in the African Charter, and so there's a litany of laws and principles that we have violated. Non-refoulement is a customary law. It has the status of customary law, meaning that every country in the world, in the community of nations, must respect it, regardless of even if they are part of treaties. It is customary law.
Okay, so just a quick follow-up to that. Is it a situation where the milk is spilled, or is there recourse?
How would you bring those people back? Yes.
Damage is done.
Yeah, damage is done. But there is legal recourse in Kenya. Yes, there are questions that may need to be asked for courts to interpret, or rights to see whether certain rights have been violated.
All right, quickly, last words, Edgar and Irungu. Edgar, what do you make of the stance that has been taken by Kenya on this matter? They've talked about, they've gotten an assurance that these people will be treated with dignity, but the PS also said he will not be taking questions on this matter on account of the individual's privacy. Yeah, I think Kenya realizes we've committed a blunder. It's a bit too late. The horse has bolted from the stable, as the saying goes. And it's a thing, I think government just acting better the next time and just taking the necessary steps, like Mr. Kipono has said, following that due process, such that by the time the decision is made legally that let us return them, Kenya is not left with egg on the face. Currently, we have egg on the face. And I think government just, principle of collective, principle of just standing in unity, the PS is just saving face and just trying to stand firm and say, we tried to do what we could, but I think we've lost this one. This one, we dropped the ball on this one. All right, Irungu, your last word. Is there any action stakeholders can take to ensure that this does not happen again?
I mean, I think there has to be an investigation and legal work done to ensure that this never happens again, and also to understand better what needs to happen in future. I think the bigger question, of course, is the issue of whether there is any obligation the Kenyans now that they have, and I would hope the embassy continues to follow this. I do. We have trade our international obligations on this one, but I think as we think more about the close to 1 million refugees that are on our soils, we do need to essentially keep the direction of travel that has been taken around, for example, the Refugee Act, the Sharika Plan, which is the integration of refugees into different counties, and also, the good work that has been done to essentially make sure that stateless communities, the Makonde, the Shona, the Pemba, continue to be given, to be registered as citizens here. And I think, this is the direction of travel that has made Kenya a world leader up until this point. And this, unfortunately, is a stain that will take a long time to wash out. All right, thank you very much for speaking to us tonight, gentlemen. We've had in studio Dimas Kipruna, who is the Deputy Executive Director, International Commission of Jurists Kenya, Dr. Edgar Githwa, who is a Diplomacy and Security Analyst, as well as Irungu Houghton, who is the Executive Director, Amnesty International Kenya. Thank you very much for staying with us this evening, speaking to us this evening. Gentlemen, we take a break. Coming up,